Coming up on today's show, the Kia EV6 becomes the quickest charging EV to cross the North American continent, the LA Auto Show goes all in on EVs with plenty to see, and President Biden gets behind the wheel of a Hummer EV for political purposes. These stories and more coming next. Welcome back to your weekly roundup in the world of clean cars and green energy. Transport Evolved News, or as we say in these parts, TEN. Before we get going today, I'd like to thank all of you for the amazing feedback from last week's impromptu panel version of this show. We heard your feedback and we're going to do our best to recreate it soon. Also, I'm recording this show a day early because I'm actually taking a break this weekend and going to a convention, so if there's stuff we've missed, it probably happened late on Thursday or Friday. Make sure you hit the notification bell and subscribe, and if you're so inclined, become a Patreon over at patreon.com. If everyone who watched donated just $1 a month, we'd be able to cover so much more. This show is sponsored by the Electric Auto Association. Stick around until the end of the show to find out how joining the EAA can help you finance your own clean energy or transportation purchase. Travelling by car from New York City to Los Angeles in as little time as possible, aka the Cannonball run, has been a thing that many a petrolhead has yearned to do in their lifetime. In recent years, EV fans have got in on the challenge too, vying for supremacy both on overall journey time and overall time spent charging. For as long as I can remember, Teslas have pretty much dominated both. But now there's a new champ, the Kia EV6. It just made the 2,880-mile, 4,600-kilometre trip, setting a new record for time spent charging in the process. While Kia hasn't made the overall trip time known, because I suspect that would attract undue attention, it spent a total of just 7 hours and 10 minutes, 1 second charging en route, slashing Tesla's previous charging record for the trip by 5.5 hours. It's all down to the EV6's 800-volt next-generation architecture. This year, we've seen automaker after automaker plagued by supply chain issues for everything from raw materials to microchips, and as someone who's watched the build date for their partner's new car slip back multiple times, I feel the pain of anyone waiting for a new EV. This week, Volkswagen became the latest automaker to feel the brunt of the problem, finding itself with no alternative but to halt all electric vehicle production at its Zwickau and Dresden plants. The halt is expected to last just a week, but it will impact production of the Volkswagen ID.3, ID.4, the Audi Q4 e-tron and the Cupra Born, all of which share the same production lines and platform. While Volkswagen has halted other plants before this point, this is the first time it's been forced to completely halt its EV production lines due to the current chip crisis. At this week's LA Auto Show, Nissan finally unveiled the North American production version of its upcoming Ariya electric SUV, opening the order books for the same. It will be offered in North America with a choice of 4 different variants, ranging in price from $45,950 all the way up to $58,950. Those prices are before incentives or mandatory shipping and handling fees. All models will get an 87 kilowatt-hour battery pack, with the entry-level front-wheel drive model offering up to 300 miles, 482 kilometers on a charge. Curiously, if you want the best range, that's the model to go for, because the more expensive and more powerful variants lose range, and the all-wheel drive performance model only manages 265 miles, 426 kilometers of range per charge. Sticking with the LA Auto Show, Hyundai was in attendance with its previously teased 7 SUEV, that's Sports Utility Electric Vehicle. Aside from giving us another acronym to learn, Hyundai says that this concept vehicle teases the upcoming Ioniq 7 SUV. But before you get too excited, I feel obliged to tell you that while the 7 may give us a good idea of what the exterior dimensions of the Ioniq 7 will be, the interior is most certainly a full-blown concept car. From the pillarless coach doors to an interior that features a curved bench seat and what Hyundai is trying to market as a living room on wheels, this autonomous concept is unlikely to enter production as it currently stands. Conceivable future or flight of fancy? Let us know below. Just across the way, Hyundai's assimilated sister company Kia unveiled the Kia EV9, which is why I'm now able to make the bad Star Trek joke. Get it? 7 of 9? Based on the same eGMP platform as the Hyundai 7, the EV9 is a far more believable concept car. Granted, it shares the pillarless coach doors with the Hyundai 7, but there's a more conventional looking interior with a massive dashboard that extends into the centre of the car, LED headlights and seating for 7. The front seats can be swiveled around to provide a lounge-like interior while the car is operating in autonomous mode. Yes, that is the buzzword for LA this year, and with a few tweaks, I could see this actually becoming a production vehicle, without the spinny seats. Oh, and the steering wheel? It's a yoke. Yeah. Nearly 2 years after it made its debut at CES 2020, Fisker has officially revealed its Ocean SUV. Again. But this time, with a manufacturing partner and battery deal signed, it's actually ready to share specs and prices. When it starts production, supposedly imminently, the Ocean will come in 3 variants, with the most affordable front-wheel drive offering 250 miles, 402 kilometers of range, and a 6.9-second sprint time, while the highest spec all-wheel drive variant will go in excess of 350 miles, 563 kilometers, and have a 3.6-second sprint time. Following Tesla's lead, the entry-level model, called the Ocean Sport, will feature an LFP battery pack with NMC batteries in the Ocean Ultra and Ocean Extreme. The Ocean Sport will start from $37,499, while the Ocean Extreme will cost just shy of 69 grand. The Porsche Taycan and Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, while incredibly expensive and out of the price range of most normal people, are without doubt 2 of the most enjoyable electric cars to drive, on or off track, as I learned firsthand a few years ago. Now Porsche has revealed 2 new Taycan models as debuted at the LA Auto Show, the Porsche Taycan GTS and the Porsche Taycan GTS Sport Turismo. With sportier interiors that are less luxurious and more track-inspired than the regular Taycans, the 2 cars produce more power than the Porsche Taycan 4S, but less than the Taycan Turbo. That said, they do get the full works when it comes to suspension and braking, using the same components found in the Taycan Turbo S, all tweaked for all-day track fun. As to the Taycan GTS Sport Turismo, it's essentially a lowered Cross Turismo that's slammed as close to the road as possible. But if you want one, you'll have a little change from 134 grand US in their base configurations. Also at the LA Auto Show, yes, there is a theme this week, Toyota and Subaru each revealed their first long-range electric cars for the global marketplace. As you might remember from previous shows, the Toyota BZ4X and Subaru Solterra are essentially the same car wearing different makeup, and both feature the same underpinnings, including two-way charging to allow both vehicles to operate as an emergency power bank when required. Powered by a 71 and change kilowatt-hour pack, Toyota will offer a front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive version, while Subaru will, of course, only offer all-wheel drive. Frankly, I prefer the all-wheel drive Scooby in its looks, but reading through both press releases, I'm struck by how little either company seems to know about electric vehicles. It's like being back in 2011 all over again. Israeli firm Storedot, which has been promising us a future of ultra-fast battery charging for EVs, has been busy in the last few weeks. Earlier this month, it became the first company to provide silicon-dominant extreme fast charging battery cells for EVs on its mass production line. It's shipped its A-sample cells to automakers around the world already for testing. And this week, the company announced a new partnership with Group 14 Technologies, a company that specializes in active materials for silicon carbon anodes, to accelerate its time to market of Storedot's XFC, Extreme Fast Charging cells. We've been following Storedot for some time now, and it's good to see it progress from the lab to the production line, as that's frankly the hardest part of the battery cell process for most companies. This week, US President Joe Biden signed the long-awaited infrastructure bill into law, while the US House and Senate carried on debating and refining the bill's sibling, the Build Back Better Act. It's that latter act which will include incentives for those buying an EV, but to celebrate the signing of the first and to celebrate the official opening of General Motors Factory Zero, where the Hummer EV will be made, President Biden headed to Michigan to tour the facility. Aside from all of the usual things that a president is expected to do, like giving a speech, President Biden managed to get some time behind the wheel of the Hummer EV, and by the way, its suspension shifted under load. He didn't spare the horses. As with his previous experiences with the Ford F-150 Lightning and electrified Jeep, his grins suggest he had a lot of fun. Coming next, short shorts. But first, a little plea. We just officially hired a new video editor who is starting in just over 2 weeks, and in addition to all the pennies they need for making our videos look amazing, we've just plopped down a not insignificant amount of money, think just about 4 digits, for our annual accommodation at CES, where there's going to be a lot of EV stuff that we need to cover. And believe me, we did get the cheapest place we could find. So this is where I ask you, on behalf of the entire team, to consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/transportevolved. Stick around until the end and I will tell you more about it. Tesla has been officially sued by JP Morgan for $162 million for those now infamous tweets that Elon Musk sent several years ago about going private at $420 per share. JP Morgan says Tesla breached a contract relating to stock warrants that it held. Volvo unveiled a new concept car at the LA Auto Show, called the Concept Recharge. It's meant to visualize Volvo's path towards a fully zero-emission future, built around a circular business model where vehicles use 100% recycled materials. Delivery estimates for the cheapest version of Tesla's Model S and Model X electric cars have now been pushed into 2023. As usual, if you buy a more expensive variant, you can get the car sooner, but it does highlight global supply chain woes. Faraday Future has delayed its latest SEC filings, telling the SEC that it's unable to file multiple third-quarter reports due to a special committee performing an independent internal review over short seller allegations. We'll keep you posted. Tesla has begun rolling out SpaceX satellite internet terminals at Supercharger sites across the US. It's a great way of allowing Tesla to fulfill its promise to make Wi-Fi available to all Tesla customers while they supercharge. Volvo has officially facelifted its XC40 and thus its XC40 Recharge, but unless you are very eagle-eyed, you probably won't notice the difference. There are a few tweaks to the bumpers and lights, but really, it is very similar. And yes, you probably didn't notice, this is footage from the old one, because we have no new footage yet. 2 financial rating agencies came out this week to say that the proposed spending laid out in the recently passed US infrastructure bill and pending Build Back Better bill, which includes incentives for EVs, will not add to inflationary pressures in the US economy. Stop the press! Well, almost. If you remember that I said that we were filming this early and it bit me in the bum, because on Friday morning the US House passed the $2 trillion Build Back Better bill. It still has to go through the Senate, but I thought you'd like to know. In addition to winning Motor Trend's 2022 Car of the Year award, Lucid announced its third-quarter results this week, increasing its revenue, but also reporting a net loss of $524.4 million. Tesla has now officially installed its 250,000th Powerwall. The milestone was passed 5 years after Tesla introduced its second generation of the Powerwall, and less than 6 months after it announced installing its 200,000th Powerwall. In what we can assume is only a last-ditch attempt to keep the internal combustion engine alive, Toyota has founded Team Japan to further develop and promote fossil fuel and fuel cell vehicle technology. It's joined by Subaru, Mazda, Kawasaki and Yamaha. Mercedes-Benz has confirmed that it will launch its EQB electric SUV in Europe next year with 2 different all-wheel drive variants, the EQB 300 4MATIC and the EQB 350 4MATIC. They will have different types of motors driving each axle. A new, unofficial survey from the Lightning Owners Forum has shown that 25% of those with a place in line to buy one own a gasoline F-150, while 11% are Tesla owners looking to buy something more work-oriented. US off-road specialist Volcon e-Powersports has announced its intention to develop a 50-state dealership network where it will sell its Grunt electric motorcycle and eventually other Volcon-branded off-road vehicles. It will also start sales soon in Latin America. The US NTSB has officially closed an investigation into a fatal accident involving a Tesla Model 3, which the autopilot was operating at during the collision. The investigation showed that the driver pressed the accelerator and ignored autopilot warnings. Volta has officially begun production of its first road-going prototype Volta Zero cargo vehicles. Designed primarily for last-mile delivery solutions and suburban delivery routes, Volta says it will produce 25 Volta Zeros at its UK production facility. As the stock market goes gaga for EVs, Lucid's stock valuation pushed it to new heights this week, making it, on paper at least, more valuable than Ford. This is amusing because about 4 years ago, Ford considered buying Lucid while it was seeking D-round funding. Similarly buoyed by the stock market, Rivian's valuation has pushed it beyond that of Volkswagen this week, with the company now the third most valuable automaker in the world. We here at the channel think that a massive bubble is going to be popping soon. Just after 14 months and 16,000 miles, 25,000 kilometers of use, one Volkswagen ID.3 has been confirmed by the company as having lost 8% of its battery capacity. That's very troubling news indeed. I love classic sci-fi, and one of my personal favourites is the 1980s classic Flight of the Navigator. So you can understand my surprise when Honda's just revealed autonomous work vehicle looks a little like Ralph from the same film. I just want to know where Sarah Jessica Parker is. Consumer Reports hasn't always been nice about Tesla, but in a recent article, the magazine notes that its annual auto survey shows that Tesla's come out top when owners were asked if they'd buy the same car again. But at the same time, CR dinged Tesla for poor reliability. Battery swap specialists Ampol have announced a new cooperation with Uber to bring its battery swapping technology to Europe for Uber drivers there to use. It already has a test fleet operating in San Francisco and has just raised an additional $50 million. Watch out for an upcoming video on this technology on the channel soon. BMW has officially begun series production of its latest all-electric moped, the CE-04. Unveiled as a concept vehicle several years ago, the CE-04 hasn't changed much from its concept form, and it will be made in street and police spec variants. Electric aircraft company Airflow has announced its intention to commercialise its first electric eSTOL airplane from 2025. That stands for Electric Short Takeoff and Landing, and the company is developing hydrogen and battery electric models. Merchants Fleet, one of North America's fastest fleet management companies, has announced its intention to purchase 5,400 BrightDrop EV410 vans from GM. It's already ordered 12,600 EV600 vans. Throwback EVs have become something of a thing in recent years as automakers seek to evoke fondness of past vehicles. This week, Hyundai became the latest to jump on the bandwagon with an electric grandeur. Just check out those boxy lines. And those are your short shorts. There will be more next week. A couple of weeks ago, we told you about Vietnamese company VinFast and its plans to bring its range of scooters and cars to North America and Europe. This week at the LA Auto Show, it took its first steps to making that a reality in the US, unveiling its brand new US headquarters in Playa Vista, LA, at the same time as debuting its VF E35 and VF E36 electric cars. Both cars have a full suite of Level 2 driver assistance features, fully autonomous parking and driver monitoring, and much more. Last year, the company sold 30,000 vehicles in its home market of Vietnam, and it says it hopes to sell more than 45,000 vehicles by the end of this year. It says pre-orders will begin in the first half of next year for North America, with deliveries by the end of the year. As usual, we're eager to get some time behind the wheel, so if you're watching VinFast, let's talk. And finally, the world of electric motorcycles has been changing at an astonishing pace, and we've been eagerly watching as new models come to the market at increasingly low prices. One company that's rushing to bring its models to the market is Indian-based Ultraviolet Automotive, whose FF77 electric motorcycle has all the right looks to sell well. This week we got access to some unedited B-roll of the same undergoing testing, not just on the road, but also off-road. The bike features a sprint time of under 3 seconds, a top speed of 140 kilometers per hour, 87 miles per hour, with a similar range, and it features fully connected OTA functionality. It is super rare for a company to show their vehicles outside of their comfort zones, but seeing the FF77 handle rutted, mud-filled tracks and smooth blacktop does make us want to spend some time getting to know it better. And on that note, we are done for the day. But before I go, I would like to thank the Electric Auto Association for sponsoring today's show. They've been advocating for electric vehicles since 1967 and firmly believe that our future depends on us making the switch to clean, green electric cars today. The EAA can help you find someone near to you that can help you make your own switch to electric. It can help you become an EV educator, and it can point you in the direction of monthly meetups for like-minded EV fans. And if you become a member, you'll gain access to a new clean energy and EV loan program set up between the EAA and the Colorado Clean Energy Credit Union. You can find out more by heading to electricauto.org. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell, both for this channel and Transport Evolved Take 2, and don't forget to visit our swag store. If you're feeling chatty as well, then why not check out our Discord server? It is free and the link is below. We're always welcoming of new Patreon supporters, or you can send us something through Ko-fi or Bitcoin. And as I said earlier in the show, we've been busy creating content, but that comes at a significant financial cost, especially if there's a road trip involved. So if you can give any help, it would be gratefully appreciated. Or we might have to go raid Shadow Legends. And we know what happened the last time that happened. It's the US Thanksgiving next week, so we're off, but I'd love to know what you have been thankful for this year. Record a video of what you're thankful for in the cleaner, greener, safer and smarter world, and keep it under 1 minute, and send it to us at show@transportevolved.com or at transportevolved on Twitter by Wednesday, and we'll make a video of your videos, including our favourites. Until next time, thanks for joining me, have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're celebrating, and as always, keep evolving.